Ever since turning state's evidence and accepting my first plea deal, I've learned it is an excellent thing to have options. The same is true for guitar. So today we're going to take what I consider to be an intermediate to simple chord progression and just talk about different options that you can have as far as different chord voicings all over the neck, or even some simple chord substitutions that you can use in any progression. So what we're going to start with is just a 4-chord progression in the key of F. It's going to sound like this. D minor, C, B flat, F. Okay? So, at first glance, those might be chords that you have potentially struggled with in the past. This is what is called a 6-5-4-1 chord progression in the key of F. Again, all that means is if you look at the F major scale, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. We're going to start on the 6th note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to be a D. The 6th note in any key is a minor chord, D minor. Pointer finger 1st fret on the high E string, pinky 3rd fret on the B string, middle finger 2nd fret on the G string. The next chord, the chord before that, what's before D in the alphabet? C. So if D is 6, C is 5. You probably know this chord. Pointer finger 1st fret on the B string, middle finger 2nd fret on the D string, ring finger 3rd fret on the A string. There's a C chord. B flat, that could be a tricky one, right? A couple different ways to play this. I'm playing it double bar chord style, but we're not going to use the double bar chord style once we change it up and play it with different options. But it's 1A, 3, 3, 3, D, G, B, and then optionally 1 on the high E string too, right? And then the 1 chord in the key of F, F major, okay? D minor, C, B flat, F. Okay? So let's talk about maybe just spicing it up a little bit with different chord voicings or the same chord voicings or just easier ways to think about some of these, because we have this double bar chord one and then this full bar chord one here, that B flat to F, they can be tricky. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn this into this. Okay, so I think it sounds, still in the spirit of the chord progression, sounds a little spicier, a little funkier, and it's actually easier to play, all right? So instead of this first D minor triad voicing, we're going to do this, okay? D minor 7 chord voicing. If you've never played minor 7 chord voicings, you need to, because it's the thing that just signals to the world that you're a funky guy or gal. You know what you're doing. You know what's up, right? You don't want to be too funky, though, or else you're going to have to sign a plea deal eventually. So you're trying to aim for the appropriate legal amount of funk, which may take some trial and error. But on a guitar, looks like this. Okay? So it starts by kind of barring, or even fake barring, trying to attempt to bar the 5th fret on the guitar from the A string higher. So A, D, G, B, E. Now you strike it once, just kind of like that. Has this neutral sound, not funky at all, but that's where the funk comes in, all right? So your middle finger and your ring finger are going to come down together on the 6th fret of the B string with your middle finger and the 7th fret of the D string with your ring finger. Okay, so it's a strike of the pick for your thumb or whatever, finger, whatever. Come down with the fingers and then upstroke with the pick. And then, to go from the 6-5-4 part, remember D minor, C, B, we can easily get there. You're already on the C major. If we think of just the 5th fret of the D, G, and B strings, it's that same thing from that B flat, but now we're just going 5 to 3 for those 3 strings, okay? You can play them as a bar chord, which I kind of like to do, especially coming from that move right there, or if you want to do more of like an A major style chord, I would challenge you to use your pointer finger to kind of strengthen that. I think it does sound a little bit better, but we got that hammer. And then we're going to do an E major shaped F major. All right, what does that mean? That means you play an E major chord, all right, where you have your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, your ring finger the 2nd fret of the D string, your pointer finger the 1st fret of the G string. There's the E major, move it a fret higher, and And then we're gonna aim for just the A, D, and G strings. If you hit extra ones, whatever, doesn't matter. And then after that, this is gonna be like our F major representative chord, okay? So D minor, C, B flat, F. I'm getting a down and up, then now what I'm doing is I'm gonna spell out or outline that F major chord. You can do this with any single major chord you ever want to do. You just have to find the root note. Root note for F happens to be the first fret on the E string. I'm gonna slide from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret. This is gonna go from the first note in the chord to the next note in the chord, an A note. And then if I use my ring finger to slide from 3 to 5, it lines my pointer finger up with the C note in an F chord. Bum, bum, bum. But also walks me into that beginning chord, okay? So, a 6 working its way down to a 1 chord is something you'll see in a lot of different songs. For example, like maybe in a more popular key like the key of C, anything that starts with an A minor and ends on a C, you can do that exact same thing, but you just gotta find like an A minor up here, or like wherever you wanna do it, and then do that arpeggio move. And arpeggios, you play a chord, 1 note at a time. We're doing the same thing right there. 1, 3 to 5, 3, A. If thinking of it as an arpeggio outlining a chord is too much, if that's too funky for you, if we're breaking the rules right there, breaking the law, just think of it as a riff, like the simplest riff. Sometimes I like actually coming back into that 3rd note. Bum, 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 bum. F. Arpeggio. So there's a lot of play in something like that. I think when you have a chord progression like this, which is pretty common, you can take that 1 chord when you get to that F, and then maybe do something else. Like I said, that's where that arpeggio run came from. However we want to connect the root chord back to where we started. One thing I like to do too is that move right there, where we just kind of hit that 4th fret, that C sharp as a passing tone to get us back home. But anyways, that's gonna be the first option that you have, just with kind of like different chord voicings. We're gonna do substitutions and also work some stuff further up the neck. But I do wanna mention that this video is sponsored by Donner Guitars, okay? If you've watched any of the videos in the last week or so, I've been rocking out this Mahogany edition. Definitely the best sub $200 guitar that I've ever been sent. So I've got an affiliate link in the description if you guys are interested. Comes with an acoustic pickup. That's what this thing is right here. It's just a bar that kind of like has a little pickup in here, and then you just plug it in right here. And like I said, I've been playing it, doing some live stuff if you want to check out some of the other videos, but really great guitar, okay? Next thing I want to do before getting into chord substitutions is doing an easier, lower dynamic way of playing that, right? In case maybe you're playing with a band, maybe you're playing with a singer, and you want to bring the volume down and do just a 2-note version of these, we do something like this. Okay, so remember that first chord we did was a D minor. The D string happens to have that root note in it, right? When we played that first open chord voicing, we played the D string as a root note, open D, right? So the 12th fret of the D string is also a root note that we can use, all right? Now what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna make a 2-note chord out of this, because I know the 6th chord in any key is minor. If you don't know what I'm talking about as far as these numbers, check out my Patreon, because I go into brutal detail. In fact, the detail was so savage and brutal, that's why I had to sign that plea deal anyway in the first place. So check that out, because the feds haven't found the Patreon page yet. And neither have many other people. But that's a different question. So we've got the 12th fret here on the D string, and then I'm grabbing the 10th fret of the G string. This is an interval known as a minor third. Anytime you find your root note here, you can rock it out with a root note and a minor third, and this little 2-note chord, dyad, whatever you want to call it, this is representative of any minor chord where this is the root note. So D minor. So we'll play that 2 times. And And then we're going to descend, just like we did in the other chords, from a D to a C, down 2 frets back is a C, but C major. So if we want to use that same interval speak, I've been known as interval boy in some corners of the internet. This is a root note, and it's major third, 10, D, and 9, G. And then the same thing, 2 frets back for the B flat. So this is D minor, C, B flat. And then just pop this a string lower, and there's your F, okay? So instead of or, we've got then you can do that same arpeggio like that, right? So what I did there is we use that 2-note chord for the F in its major third, which happens to be an A, 10 A and 9 D. I'm gonna walk it through that arpeggio shape that we talked about before, right? So I start with the chord, then I'm gonna line up just like the old shape was. 8, 10 to 12, 10 D, and that lines me up. Then back to. So it's a different speed. It's a different option that you have. You know, if you're just playing a song and you want to use the full open chords to accompany your voice and keep an even dynamic, maybe you don't want to use that, or maybe you only want to use that, right? But it's good to have an option in a different spot of the fretboard that is going to end up being a different volume, right? This right here is a 2-note chord. It sounds way different when I do a full chord as compared to a 2-note version higher up that is technically a higher pitched voicing, all right? So the next option that I want to do is a chord substitution, all right? So if we look at, again, where we have this, we're just kind of descending. 6, 5, 4, end up on 1. All right, so a D minor chord is called a triad. It has 3 different notes. It's a D, an F, and an A, okay? What we can do is we can find another chord with those 3 notes in it, but maybe change the root note. So if I wanted to add another note, I could go maybe 2 notes back or a third back from D, okay? And we already know this because we already did this descending line, 6, 5, 4. So I could add this note and then add a D minor chord on top of it, right? So what's a B flat? Basing out, that's not, nobody says that. I don't know why that just came into mind. We're basing out. We're gonna take a D minor, but we're gonna base it out. That means add the third below. I learned that at Berkeley School of Music, basing it out. Anyways, if we have a B flat, and then a D, and then an F, and then an A, you actually end up with this chord right here. B flat, major 7, okay? So this is actually one of my favorite chords in this key. Probably my favorite chord in this key. The 4 chord is a major 7 chord. Is always my go-to. There's a couple different ways you can play it, but we're gonna, I think we'll probably actually, let's use this voicing. There's a couple different ones. I'll talk about both voicings, but for the example, I'm gonna use this one. So that B flat that we started with, if you just go 1, 3, 2, 3, this is a B flat, and then a D minor chord on top of it. D, B flat, major 7, right? So instead of D minor, C, B flat to F, we can do this B flat, major 7, and then do the same thing with the other chords, which we're going to talk about right now, okay? So to illustrate the descending nature, I think it's really beneficial to think of it going down one string. I think it's easier to kind of get a mental snapshot of how this works. So the B flat on the E string is the 6th fret. And then remember, this was that first thing that we did the hammer on for. If you think this is a regular D minor chord, and then you just pivot your pointer finger to the 6th fret on the E string, that's a B flat, all right? So I've got 6 E, I'm skipping the A string, ring finger pinky on 7 D and G, middle finger on what, 6B, right? So there's my D minor chord, and there's me basing it out. So now I'm substituting B flat, major 7 for that D minor, okay? So I could just do it as simple as that. And then still do the C to B flat to get myself to F. But I want to do something a little bit different, remember? So if we think of the 3 notes in this chord, the next triad would be C major, C, E, and G. Let's base that out. What's the note 2 back from C? Well, if we just go through that F major scale, we go, all right, there's our C. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back again. A. So if I play that C chord but add an A, I end up with an A minor 7. So now I can get B flat, A minor 7, and then for the B flat, I can do the same thing, B flat over G, which is a G minor 7. And that can still lead me all the way back to F. Okay? So instead of I could sub it. Okay, so I think those are some of the simplest substitutions because you're 75% of the same chord, but when you change the bass note, when we base it out, let's make this a thing. We're basing it out just means adding the third below and extending the chord. When we add the bass note that wasn't previously in the chord, we're actually changing the name of the chord. And since guitar is such the naming construction of chords is very reliant on where the lowest note is, where the bass note is, it does kind of give a different vibe. Instead of, even though again, it's 75%, it's still got those 3 notes and we're just adding 1. So it's mostly that same chord. We are kind of substituting it in a different way, okay? So it's a lot of information here, but I definitely think thinking about having different options can be helpful in so many different ways, whether you're trying to make a different part of the song sound different and it's the same chords, whether you want to put your own spin on maybe something more traditional. It's good to know that you can change these in any order. They don't have to always be a 6, 5, 4, 1. Any chord in any key has different ways that you can play it. But again, that nice little hammer on is a great way to do it. That's cool too. And then is a great way to start thinking about different substitutions. You're thinking about new chords. You're moving different shapes all over the place. You're getting so much good practice in. You're rocking it out with an excellent sub $200 guitar from Donner. Thank you again for sponsoring this video. And then if you want to see more like this, check out the Patreon. I'll link you below, and I'll also link an affiliate link to this bad boy right here. Again, mahogany, every way you look at it. The classiest of the tone woods. I don't think anybody can really disagree with that, but feel free to in the comments, and I'll talk to you all later. Thank you very much.